The way that I'm not necessarily going to say discovered this game, but the place that I first saw this game and the way that I first saw this game, I have already kind of mentioned before with the previous game because it kind of melds into that. But despite having not that much interest in the series as a whole, there was one time where I was over at Josh's and he had his GameCube. I don't remember if this was before or after I got mine. I believe it was before. I believe it was part of the motivation to get the GameCube. I don't remember. But I do remember that he was there and he was playing The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker. I think everybody's well aware of the story behind this game and how it was received back in the day when it came out, because it was received very poorly, in fact, because, it looks a lot different to Ocarina of Time. It's not as realistic, and it doesn't match up against those demo videos that were released previous to this. But over the years, the game got much more approval and people started to appreciate the art style a lot more. And it eventually came out on the Wii U as a HD version. But personally, I never had any issues with this game at all. I did not think for a second that it looked worse or better in any way. I mean, obviously, graphically, it's more advanced, but I never thought to myself, oh, this doesn't look like Ocarina of Time, although I didn't really have much connection to Ocarina of Time either. And also, just to clarify, that it's the GameCube version of Ocarina of Time that comes with the Wind Waker game on the GameCube, which is how I eventually got both of them. But when I got them, the bundle of the Wind Waker and Ocarina of Time, I actually did get the same bundle that Josh got, and I got them both for the same reason. I had the same motivation to get each one individually. I don't remember if I thought that I wanted one particularly more than the other. I don't remember, but yeah, that's just what I remember. So I didn't complete this game because, as I've stated before, Ocarina of Time is the only Zelda game that I have completed. In fact, I don't remember if I did mention that before, but if I didn't, well, I'm mentioning it now. Ocarina of Time is the only one I've completed. But the thing that this game is mostly known for, I would say, is the fact that it takes place in a giant world that is mostly water. It is a giant ocean with all these little islands scattered around, and it's your job to go onto the map and search around each individual square on the map in this grid shape and unlock the map as you go around. And I really like that idea. People complain that, ooh, it's so boring and, ooh, you have to change the wind's direction and it's so dull. But no, I've never really had a problem with that. I think it's interesting how you have to find the fish in each of the individual squares and you have to feed him the bait so that he can draw on your map. And I also find it interesting how you unlock more abilities that allow you to travel around the map more effectively. And I've always really liked that in games where you unlock more abilities as you go on to make things work more effectively, such as traveling for this example. But I generally think that this game was better than Ocarina of Time, just in general. Not loads better, but just generally better. I just had a better time with it. Also, I like the minigames more in this version. The minigames, like in the Ocarina of Time, where you have to shoot at the targets, I never really liked that very much, and I wasn't very good at it either. But this game did seem to have a lot of stuff just scattered around, and I did really like that. Sometimes I really don't expect to enjoy a game as much as I do, and this is certainly an example of that. I actually got this on PS Plus for free, and I was never particularly interested in this particular game, but I actually had this game unlocked on PS Plus for quite a while before I was able to play it. It wasn't until I got my PS4 that I was then able to play it, and I got my PS4 towards the end of 2015 and I thought, hey, I'll play that game. And I think that this is the game for me that was the game that showed me the new graphics. And I think there's a few games that have done this to me in the past where I get a new console and there is one game that I first play that makes me think, wow, these are the new graphics, this is what things look like now. Although saying that, it wasn't as big of a deal on the PS4 in general, I don't think. I've mentioned this before, I believe, with the PS3, where Oblivion was my first PS3 game, and I noticed the graphics on that. It was kind of the same for Crash Bandicoot or Battle Arena Toshinden with the the PS1. But this is the PS4 equivalent of that. And this is a game that they showed at E3, only very slightly. It was just a trailer and then that was it, and I didn't really think much of it. And I am talking about Infamous First Light. I've never really been into the Infamous series, but I saw that I had this game and I loaded it up and I tried playing about with it. Now, the issue that I had, first of all, was the lack of camera controls, and that's always a huge issue for me. The inability to invert the X or Y axis given the situation, depending on the type of game, to me can make a game just unplayable. Like, there's been games where I've tried to play it, but it's like a strictly third-person game, and you just can't invert the X-axis. I just can't deal with that. People might say, ooh, get over it, right? But it's something that I really, really struggle with. I need those angles inverted. And so, this kind of had that issue, because it did have a sort of exploring mode where you have the camera behind the character, in which case I like to have it full inverted, so that when you move up, the camera moves above the character's head, camera's moving up, and you press down on the camera thing so the camera goes like down to the character's legs. And then in first person, when you're aiming outwards, I like X to be what is commonly known as normal, and for the Y-axis to be inverted, but the game won't let me do that. And so I was able to get used to first person aiming with an inverted X-axis. I could do that, but I just can't get used to a third person exploration with X-axis not inverted. It's just a thing that I just can't wrap my head around what is known as normal camera controls in that regards. But it's a very, very short game. It's an open world kind of game, apart from it's very small, but the story itself is very short. You have a very strict few set of events that you have to go through one after the other, but that's not where the majority of the fun lies in this game. I would say the majority of the fun in this game lies in the leveling system, because the way that you gain experience, well, you don't gain experience, you gain something called SP, which is like your skill points. And what's interesting is that the SP symbol is the same as Sucker Punch, the company symbol. That's interesting. And the way that you gain SP is by accomplishing goals, and you'll have like a list of all these different goals, and some of them are very simple. Like the very simple ones you'll just do straight away are things like collect all of the things flying around the city, and then you'll have ones that move, and then you'll have things you have to graffiti, and then you'll have drones you have to take down. All very easy, don't require much skill, but you'll just go and do them. But what this means is that you can't grind a particular thing for SP. You can, say, grind a particular thing to accomplish a particular goal, like you might have something which is like kill 40 of this particular type of enemy, which will give you 3 SP or whatever, and you can grind out those until you completed that goal, and then you have completed that goal and you get the SP that is assigned to that goal. And you'll have sort of like a skill tree, apart from it's just like 7 straight forward branches. There's no diverging paths. It's just 7 or 8 or so different direct lines of abilities, and some of them are completely useless towards the end when you want to complete all of the big challenges. But saying that, those useless ones at that point you kind of need, like for example the running abilities. You'll want the running abilities because there's those SP orb things that are flying around that you will need to catch up with, so you'll need those abilities early to help you get those SP orbs early. And what's so interesting about this, I think, is that the amount of SP it takes to max out all of the abilities is the exact same number as the amount of SP that you can earn. So if you max out, that means you have completed the game, you have done everything. And so what this means is this game does what I call, this is a terminology that I've just come up with, and that is scraping. It's where you look for any particular source of income that you can find, and you think, right, can I get like 1 point out of that? And if so, it's like, right, okay, I'm going to squeeze in this extra little bit of challenge here so I can get 1 point out of that. Or that offers 2 points. Can I, with my current abilities, scrape out those 2 points and then add those so that I can get more abilities? And I really think that it's a lot of fun to do that. But the main mechanics of this game, the main features of this game, is that you can use this super neon run thing, because it's all themed around neon lights, which will allow you to transport around different places faster, but you can't shoot whilst you're doing that. Also, you have different abilities, like you can shoot out these like neon zaps towards the enemy, and you can also unlock like for example these salvos. It's like the final ability where it's like all of these different homing missiles which uses up some of your neon energy, and you can actually absorb neon energy by walking up to anything that's like a neon light and holding down on the touchpad. It'll absorb it in. And you also get abilities that will allow you to control the enemy if you kill them by shooting them in the right spots. And you also unlock this singularity where once you've accumulated so much points from killing all of these enemies, you can unleash this giant sort of like a black hole type of thing which will cause a massive explosion. And this all comes together in the challenge arenas, and that's where it really tests your skill, where you have to get as much points as you can and survive for as long as you can and save different hostages. And again, you do this whole scraping thing where it's like, right, there's a chat, I can get a few more SP where I can complete challenge beta by getting 500,000 points. Can I just do that? Yes, I've just done that. Got 2 SP. Can I spend that SP on something? Where should I spend it? Where should I spend it? And I really, for the short amount of time that I did play this game, because it's not that long of a game, but I did have a lot of fun with that. One Christmas, I'm guessing somewhere in the mid to late 90s, I got this game, and it's a very obscure game. In fact, I think that when I ask people about this game and I tell them about it, I think I've only ever had one person know what it is outside of me telling them what it is. And this is a game called Poi Poi. So the basic core concept of Poi Poi is that it's sort of like a multiplayer party game where you have 4 different players in this arena, and around this arena you have rocks of different sizes and missiles of different sizes and boxes and other items depending on what level you are, scattered all around. And the basic idea is to pick up all these items and throw them at your opponents in order to wipe them out. Each level is comprised of 3 different rounds, although you can change that in the settings for the main exhibition mode, which is like the free play mode. And at the end of each round you get some points. So you get points for how many direct hits you deal. You get 2 points for every white heart that you collect. White hearts being one of the items that come out of the boxes. There are a few different items that come out of the boxes when you throw them. And you also get points based on your ranking in how long you survive for. So say if you were the last one standing, you get more points than whoever died first. And then you get points at the end of the 3 rounds, and that determines the winner. That's the basic idea. However, you also have these gloves, which is kind of like your special power, and any character can use any glove, so it's completely independent. You can choose one character and pick whatever glove you want. Apart from the computer players always pick a specific glove to that character. And you use these gloves by picking up an item like a rock or a missile. With the amount of power charge, press R1 and then you'll use the magic ability. Now, there are absolutely loads of these gloves, and I'm going to talk about that when I talk about the Poi Poi Cup, which I am going to right now. So there's this thing called the Poi Poi Cup, which is sort of like the single player campaign, and the character that you choose first of all will determine what glove you start with. You will start with the level 2 variation of the glove that that character is assigned to. So for example, if you play as Harry, you will start with Chase 2, or if you play with Arnold, you'll get Hurricane 2. If you choose Bubba, you'll have Magic 2. And you start off the game with this glove shop. You can talk to the lady at the glove shop and she will sell you all of these gloves. And for each character that there is, including characters you haven't unlocked yet, there are 3 stages of gloves, each numbered 1, 2 and 3. So for example, Chase 1, Chase 2, Chase 3, which are slight upgraded versions of each other. And as you go into the Poi Poi Cup, you'll start in the Junior Cup, and you have to basically come first at the end of every single round. And doing so will earn you money, and if you win the whole thing, you will win the grand prize for the Junior Cup. And you use that money to buy different gloves, so you might buy, say, Crush 1 or Thunder 3, and that is how you unlock more gloves. When you get to the final stage of the Junior Cup, you'll face off against a character called Steel, who is one of the senior characters, and then once you've completed the Junior Cup, you will unlock all of the extra characters, which I would refer to them as the senior characters. And they all come with their own stats and their own glove series. And you also unlock the upgrade shop, or the tune-up shop, where you'll talk to this character who will tune up your gloves, so you can change Chase 1 into Chase 2. But also there's 2 extra variations after the third stage, and those fourth and fifth stages each have their own individual name. So for example, the Thunder series, you have Thunder 1, Thunder 2, Thunder 3, you have Finger Ray, and then Rainbow. And the idea is that the final two stages are kind of like variations of the first three stages, apart from it's not just a strict upgrade, there is a difference to it. So for example, with the Knife series, you have Knife 1, Knife 2, Knife 3, Kill Knife, and Flash Wall. So you'll have the Knife series, which what they do is they get the rock or whatever item it is, and they'll push it forward. It'll move forward. And then you've got Kill Knife, which is the same apart from it turns into this big wall that you can't jump over because it's so long. And at the final stage you'll have Flash Wall, which is the same again apart from you can jump over it because it's not tall, but it is very wide. And so each glove will go through this individual series of tiers. Then you'll have the Witch, who will sell you these really powerful gloves for loads of money, and there's like 3 of these. And they are completely unrelated to the characters or anything, they are just separate individual gloves, such as Death, which will reduce everyone's health to 1. And the final ultimate glove that you can unlock is Meteor, which you will get by completing the Master Cup without losing any continues and then defeating the King. By defeating the King, you'll also unlock the ability to play against the King in exhibition mode, and so it will take a rather significant amount of time to keep replaying and playing these levels and these cups and tournaments and stuff over and over, so that you'll get enough money to be able to buy all of the gloves. And it's a lot of fun. I remember one time playing through the game, buying all of the individual gloves and then going ahead and just maxing out my money because I wanted to. And so yeah, I really do have a lot of praise with this game. The only really downside I have to say about this game is that characters aren't always necessarily balanced so well, so you'll have characters who are just flat out better than others. But even with the starting characters, like Cool is a better character than Harry because his stats are just higher, so that's a downside. But yeah, I had a really good time playing this game.